Welcome to the Own Your Good podcast. I am so excited for today's conversation with Kathy Schroeder. It's been a rough week. I've done a couple of these interviews this week, and if you listened to last week's episode, Clark Dean Galley with her experiences with her family, her father, and her son, still fresh on my mind, still raw emotions. So I'm not hoping, I think it will be a much more positive conversation and focusing on some things that are fun. So Kathy, welcome to the Own Your Good podcast. It's been a while since we've talked to each other, so it was good catching up with you.
It's been very nice, yeah.
So
I've thoroughly enjoyed following you, and nice to see you.
Yeah, so we know each other from the beginnings of my teaching career at a junior high in Murray, Utah, and you were sort of the seasoned veteran. You rolled your eyes in meetings and like I've seen it all. But that was kind of
saw that.
Well, it's refreshing because I'd been in similar experiences in other industries. So knowing that, it's the same everywhere. You know what you're doing. You're listening to the new rules, and you're just smiling and nodding and doing what you need to do to not make the kids be successful, but basically, right? Like that's our goal in whatever our field is.
Right.
So I went into the junior high teaching English, and you were there teaching PE.
Yep.
So I'll just go ahead and introduce sort of how you got there, what it is about that field that you enjoy. You've retired recently from that, so maybe you've been removed enough far from it that you can love it again. I don't know. Go ahead. How did you get into teaching PE, physical education?
Well, I was a gym rat in high school, and all I ever wanted to do was play.
Yeah.
And so I figured if I wanted to play the rest of my life, I needed to teach PE. So I think it's the best job ever. You got to know kids on a different level. You got to laugh with them every day. Play with them every day, see them let their hair down and just have a good time.
Yeah.
And that was very special to me. And after 31 years, I'm happy to say I retired loving what I did.
That's great.
It just got hard.
Yeah.
It just got hard. So
that's good because
it was physically demanding.
Yeah. In the short time that I was at that school, I saw a couple of teachers retire, and they didn't retire loving what they did. And that's unfortunate.
No,
and I'm not
sad.
No judging on them. We each have our own struggles and things that we're dealing with. So, that's awesome that you were able to finish off with a smile.
Yep.
So,
and I would never do it again because the profession has changed, and
yeah.
I started in 84, 85, and it had changed where people that knew nothing about education thought they were the experts and told you what you needed to do to be a better teacher, and that was frustrating.
Yeah. So,
but
it wasn't like that in the 80s?
No, my gosh, no. I mean, you did your thing, and if you weren't doing your job well, the principal was the one that let you know, and he knew better than anybody what you did in the classroom. A good principal was always in classrooms, and he knew good teachers and what they were doing, and he knew, or she knew, bad teachers, and that's their job, because they're the experts.
And it's evolved to being more policy and damage control, maybe.
Yes, and just the hoops you had to jump through. It didn't make me a better teacher. It wasted my time, and one of the most valuable things teachers have is their time.
Yeah.
And when it was wasted, that was hard for me.
Yeah. And I know how that is teaching reading and writing. Well, it's not so much teaching reading and writing because by the time they get to me, they should be reading and writing, but crafting that and focusing on that. But in the sports arena, you can't play a game if your time is taken.
Exactly.
You can't focus on the skills the elements of the game. You can't really get a chance to practice the bump set spike or the dribble without, traveling. All of those things.
Yeah. It's like I said, it was a great career for me.
Yeah.
Loved every minute. Well, I shouldn't say every minute, but I loved it.
Most of it, yeah.
Finished loving it. But I would never do it again based on where it's at now.
It's at now, yeah. So, as a kid, you just loved the thing. Was there a sport that that was your thing, or did you just love all of it?
I loved all of it, but I excelled at softball and basketball.
Yeah.
And so I kind of went to college to play basketball and then got there and realized it wasn't the fit I had hoped for,
Yeah.
and kind of jumped ship and went into softball and played that for 4 years
Yeah.
instead. So
That's cool. Knowing that if I'm not good enough or not great enough or it wasn't my thing, my sister did high school soccer, and when she got to the University of Utah, she realized, I don't know that I want to manage all of these things. And that's great
yeah,
that you can
you
jump.
have to have a commitment, because when you get to college, it's not like what you're used to. It's more of a business. Coaches lose their jobs if they don't win.
Yeah.
You know, it's a little different there. You have to be committed, and you have to really love it.
Yeah. And be willing to take the criticism from the coaches.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
yes, lots of it.
Yeah. So did you go on scholarship? Did you get to the college that you wanted to go to, or what was that like?
I came from a small town in Nevada, so I wasn't recruited. So I walked on,
Okay.
and was scholarshiped the next 3 years.
Gotcha. That's cool.
So,
Yeah. And so in that college experience, was that when you realized that education might be the thing to pursue?
not the first 2 years. It was general ed, and
Yeah. Yeah.
history classes and English classes and science. Not my thing.
Yeah.
So I got by.
Because you got to play.
I kept my grade point average up because I wanted to play, and that's really what I was there to do, was play.
That's good.
Play softball.
That's a good
And
lesson
so,
I think, for a lot of kids now. Sometimes you really
oh
got to
yeah,
do those things to make sure that you can play.
yeah, absolutely. So after the second year, when I started taking courses towards my major, because you had to pick a major, so I thought, well, might as well be PE. What else would I do? Um, it was amazing. I loved it. All of a sudden I'm on the dean's list, and I was the outstanding graduate in the health, physical education, recreation, and dance department when I graduated. I mean, it was like a light switch. It was like, this stuff is all right, but oh my gosh, this stuff's amazing.
It's almost
And
like
I
school.
knew,
It's almost like that
oh
department was set up for you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was me. I mean, it was me, and I had no intentions of ever graduating, and when I hit that third year and realized, oh my gosh, this stuff's good,
Yeah.
it kind of triggered that I could be a college graduate.
Yeah. That's awesome. So I don't want to stereotype, but that made me think, because I had a student at Hillcrest who was just dragging along. She just hated it. And somebody said, "Hey, you seem to be athletic." And she left me with a note that said, "You will see me on the TV in," and I can't remember if she said Olympics or what, but somebody said, "Hey, you look like you could be an athlete." And she tried, and she did. How was your school experience in high school up until that point? Was it kind of the same as the first year of college? Sort of like, this is a drudgery, I can't believe I have to do this?
No, I mean, I wasn't a great student in high school. I skipped school a lot. I went and hung out in the gym, and the boys' basketball coach helped me with my shot. It was a different time.
Yeah.
It really was a different time.
Yeah.
I mean, you left your doors unlocked.
Yeah,
You've heard
sure,
it all. But
sure.
yeah, it was a different time.
Well, I guess I'm just maybe trying to think about kids today, where maybe it's even harder today for the students that are in high school and junior high and things, and even thinking of going to college. But it's okay. It's worth it. It was the thing that got you there.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? When in teaching in 31 years, I always encourage my kids that it was possible.
Yeah.
I always let them know it's possible.
Yeah.
I said, it does. Your GPA, in junior high, I was honest with them. I said,
Yeah.
you know what? This doesn't matter. I said, and when you get to high school, if you don't take AP classes, that doesn't matter. They're going to look at your GPA, and they're going to look at your ACT and your SAT scores, and that's going to get you where you need to be.
Yeah.
I said, but just know that your habits right now and what you're doing right now is going to give you the work ethic you need, and it was a lesson I never learned until I got to my third year of school.
Same with me. Yeah. You don't get it until it matters. And then you're like, oh, I can do something. I can do this. That's awesome. Yeah. Were you in the same school the whole time or the same district the whole time when you taught?
No. I started up in Weber County, taught at a little junior high up in Huntsville, up by the ski resorts up Ogden Valley. Taught there for 2 years. And then Weber High kind of came knocking on my door, and they said, hey, we want you to come down here and join our coaching staff.
Yeah.
So I went down there for 7 years and then met the love of my life.
Yeah.
And he lived in Salt Lake City and worked in Salt Lake City and still does. So I applied for a job at Hillcrest Junior High School, got that, and
that's great.
Finished my career there.
The things that we do and the adventures that it brings with it. That's awesome.
Yes. Yeah.
As a teacher of junior high PE, and you spent some time at the high school in Weber, what is it like knowing that the kids that you're working with, more than half of them, have no desire to be on the field? And then there are a handful that love it. Do you get to see them change and love it?
I do. That was probably one of the things I'm most proud of is at Hillcrest. And I just had girls in my class the last 15 years. The girls, my goal was to make them love to play.
Yeah.
Not be good at it, but to love to play. So I never put pressure on them to be good. And I told them frequently, it's not how good you are. It's, are you doing your best?
Yeah.
And that's what mattered to me. I didn't care if they were good. If they were giving me their best effort, that's all I cared about.
Yeah.
And I didn't put pressure on them to be great. And I told them, I said, my favorite students aren't the athletes. They're the kids that are, didn't think they liked PE, but came out of there saying, this is my favorite class.
Yeah.
And that was my goal, is to get kids to learn to love to play, because you got to play your whole life or it's going to be awfully boring.
Definitely. And I've had that same attitude with reading, and I still do. You might not find the thing that you love to read or love to read everything, but you've got to find something that you enjoy. And it's almost like relearning, and it's only been lost for a few years.
Yeah.
Like when they're in third grade, they love to play. They love recess. And then there's something about growing up and being mature and not having that reckless abandon of just enjoying it, just having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. What? I
told them, if you're not running around giggling every day in my class, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good line. I want to put that up in my room or something like that. And I have some other themes like that. If you're not aiming high enough, or if your dreams don't scare you enough, same idea, then you're doing it wrong. Because you really should be pushing yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think a lot of people think of PE as soccer or flag football or running around the track for the mile timed run.
Throwing the ball out.
Yeah.
The teacher throwing the ball out. Yeah. Yeah.
What did you...
There's a lot of bad stigma with that profession.
Yeah.
They think we're just throw the ball out, don't care, sitting there eating a cheeseburger. You see it on TV all the time, the way they depict the PE teacher. Yeah. Yeah,
you're running the mile and I'm in the golf cart.
Yeah, as it should be.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking, oftentimes that's the stereotype, and as you said, there's a stigma to that. But I know that you did a lot of creative, innovative gaming, because it is more about being active and less about being good at it. Yeah. What were some of those games? What were some of those things that you did, and where'd you get them?
We play, there's a couple of them. We played one that was called Pinball. I made it up.
Uh-huh.
The kids loved it. But and it was amazing to watch how hard they worked and
Yeah.
how fast they ran and how aggressive they were. But a lot of that is because it was just the girls. They
Yeah.
weren't with the boys.
Yeah.
This Title IX things, which is a whole nother topic that I can get into, but it wasn't right for PE, particularly junior high PE.
Yeah.
Once they separated it, man, girls got after it.
Yeah.
I mean, from the athlete to the kid that didn't want to be there, they didn't have to worry about, the guys looking at them and teasing them and dominating a game, and they got to dominate the game.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fun to see.
That's cool. So pinball, is that sort of like, it makes me think of maybe a cross between bowling and kickball? Or was it totally different?
So this was an indoor game that you played in the gym. You divided the gym in half. You set 5 bowling pins on opposite ends of the gym, and teams were by colors. So one team had their blue PE shirts on, the other one had a red jersey on. And once you crossed the center line, it became a game of freeze tag. The goal was, and there's a bunch of the gator skin balls. They're like the sponges with the gator skin on them. There's like 50 of those out there. And you're just picking them up and running over. And there's a line about 10 feet from the pin. And you could go all the way up there if you could get up there without getting tagged and throw the ball. And the object was to knock all their pins down before they got yours.
Yeah.
So you were on your own side playing defense and tagging people and trying to protect your pins, or you're on offense and you're running to the other side. And there's kids going in all directions.
Oh, that's cool.
And we were fortunate enough, we had a large enough gym that it worked, and it was kind of crazy.
That sounds like a blast.
It was a lot of fun. The kids loved it. Yeah.
Because it's making their brains think in more than just back and forth.
Yeah. And if a teammate got frozen on the other side, the only way they could get unfroze is a teammate had to throw you a ball and you had to catch it and carry it back.
Yeah.
So there was lots of roles for different people. If you weren't fast and you didn't want to be aggressive and run, and you were getting teammates back in the game.
Yeah.
So
that's
there was something
awesome.
for everybody.
That's so cool. Any other games like that, whether you invented them or whether you just adapted them to massive groups?
Another one they loved that we did outside was capture the flag.
Yeah.
So we had we would paint off a huge field and divide it in half again with 2 teams, and in the back of each area we would have this enormous circle painted on the field with a rugby ball in it, and the goal was to get over there, get that rugby ball, and get it back to your side.
Yeah.
And they wore football flags. So if you got your flag pulled, you go to jail. Teammates have to rescue you.
Yeah.
And if you got the ball back to your side without getting your flag pulled, it was a score. And the girls really loved that one when we were outdoors.
Yeah. That's great. So I know that as
junior high PE, the only class I got picked out of.
I know that as you got closer to retirement, a sport, I don't know how it was developed. I don't know if you know the history of it, but I know that you got really involved in it, and traveled and on teams and different things. And cities are still trying to figure out how to put more courts at their parks. How's that been going?
I love it. You're talking about pickleball.
Yeah.
That's the hard part about this virus and being stuck at home is I can't play pickleball, especially now that it's moved indoors in this area.
Yeah.
When it was outdoors, I felt safe because I played on a friend's private court, and there was always the same 4 girls. And so I was playing up until a month ago.
Yeah.
A couple times a week. I'm not doing tournaments as often because of, and a lot of them have been canceled.
Everything's been kind of shut down.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's, when I always said, if there's not a ball involved, I'm bored with it. So it kind of surprises me that I'm painting rocks.
Yeah.
But,
so I have played a little bit with family. Describe, if people don't know, describe what it is. What is it that is so fun about it?
What is so fun about it? I don't know. It's fast. It's easy to learn. The level of play can be from beginner, and you see 5-6-year-olds out there playing with their families, to there is a pro level now where they are making, there's a tournament up in Brigham City, usually in September, and they give away $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year. There is a pro level now. There's a pro league. I mean, they're pushing to get it into the Olympics, but it's like a mini tennis game or a giant ping pong game.
Yeah.
So it's on the size of a badminton court, so it's easy, to cover a court and not as much running as tennis.
Yeah, so it's kind of a combination, from my experience, it's a combination of fast where the ball is back and forth a lot, but because the court is smaller, there's a lot less, and I don't want to say energy expended, but like you said, you don't have to run across the whole court. You don't have to really, the damage on your body potentially is a lot less.
Yes. So it was huge in the retirement community. And then the younger people started picking up on it. And now you've got clubs in high schools.
Yeah.
And you've got kids in tournaments. You've got kids that are already pros. I mean, it's evolved quite a bit.
That's neat. And the sound that the ball makes is really cool too. That little pop.
It is really cool, unless you live by a court and people complain.
There's always somebody that's got to spoil the fun.
Of course.
That's cool. Anything else that you've been doing like that? It is difficult with the requirements of being careful that almost all sports have just basically shut down.
Yeah. And it's probably not a bad thing, you know. I mean, you just got to bite the bullet and get through this thing. But no, other than pickleball, I really haven't done much outside of the house.
Okay.
Months.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that, I mean, aside from knowing who you are and how you have a passion for play, you've been doing something and sharing your experience on social media, which is fantastic. It's been fun to watch and people's responses. And I'm not exactly sure how to introduce this other than it's something that, like, I've seen some rocks that have traveled from a location. There's a rock and it's painted with a specific location and maybe a positive phrase, and it's traveled from somewhere in Texas up through Utah over to Colorado, and people are taking pictures, sort of like a Flat Stanley, where it's passed along sort of as a positive vibe kind of a thing. And I don't know how you started. We can talk about that, but it's almost like you started a business. Have you started a business painting rocks?
Well, I don't know if I've started a business painting rocks, but I did just deliver a special order of 32 rocks today.
Yeah.
I just finished. This family ordered 32 rocks, 7 of them with the burned bear from and the Swiss, and 25 of the Swiss flag, because that's they're huge.
Their family thing. Yeah.
Proud, and so they give that away for Christmas. So I just finished an order of 32 rocks. Had an order of 9 rocks that I had to send to New Hampshire.
That's got to be some nice shipping.
And she was willing to pay it.
So you've got into painting rocks. How did that start? What happened?
I don't know how it started. I was stuck at home.
Yeah, I remember there was a lot of puzzle things going on at that same time.
Doing puzzles, and I was making baskets out of rope, which I have hundreds of as well. And the whole north side of our house is lined with just rocks. And so I saw it had to have been on the internet somewhere, somebody had painted a rock with a mask on it. And I thought, oh my gosh, I need a COVID souvenir. So I painted one and called it my COVID kid. Okay. And it's got 2020 on her little medical cap up there. And then I painted one for my neighbor. And then I painted one for a friend. And pretty soon I had a bag of them. So every time I went and played pickleball with somebody I hadn't seen in a while, I gave them one of my COVID kids.
Okay, yeah.
And then I just started painting other things. And I never considered myself crafty or artistic by any means.
Yeah.
And it was always kind of like, well, I guess I'm athletic. That's all I got.
Yeah, yeah.
Because my family on my dad's side is very artistic. Grandpa was an artist, my dad, my uncle, they're all artists. And I have my grandpa's paintings in my house. And my siblings are all very crafty and artistic. And
Yeah.
I'm going, okay, I didn't get it. Okay, I
Yeah.
got it. I'm
Yeah.
athletic. I guess I didn't get that part.
Yeah.
So then as I painted rocks, I went from simple, and then it got a little more elaborate, and then I got more daring and brave,
Yeah.
and tried some things, and there were some failures along the way, but I got to a point where, you know what? Oh my gosh, I am a Lewis.
Yeah.
That was my maiden name, and
Yeah.
that, the Lewis side of the family with all the artistic skills. And I went, oh my gosh, I am a Lewis.
Yeah.
I've got some of that.
Yeah.
And so where before I would just do something real basic and real simple. Now,
We'll post some
it's
links. We'll post the progression. We'll show the COVID kid and the
Okay,
evolution
okay.
into what you've been working on, and it's impressive. I don't know if anybody would ever really do this. I was talking to a local businessman who had a parody logo made for his business. It's based around video games, and he got a letter from Nintendo recently to stop using their logo, even though it's a parody hand drawn by somebody else to sort of represent his
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
I hope that you don't get anything like that. I hope it's positive spin for these entities. But it's cool.
I
The
hope
detail
so.
that you create for college logos, for sports teams, I'm trying to think of what else I've seen.
Yeah. Christmas stuff. I got just, I don't know, moose in the woods. I mean,
Yeah.
just all kinds of just camping and outdoors. I did a fly fishing fly for my husband.
Yeah.
And just, it's getting harder and harder to come up with something to paint. I will say that.
That's neat. So
After a couple hundred rocks.
right. So you've got a wide variety of some college sports, some nature-oriented things, some regional, like you said, country flags and different things, and starting to struggle to find things. How do you find the rocks? I guess that's the first part, because like sourcing canvases from the art store, that can get kind of expensive. But rocks,
Yeah.
where do you get your rocks?
The rocks are on the side of my house. Yeah, I know. Seriously, like paying for air when you fill up a tire. Who pays for air? So I'd go to the north side of my house and I'd pick up rocks, and my husband's kind of going, "Where are you getting all those rocks?" And I went, "Over there." And not that I could ever deplete that area.
Yeah.
But then a friend of mine told me about American Stone, which is a place over in Murray, on just off 45th and 3rd West.
Yeah.
And I go over there a couple times a month, and I drive my Jeep onto the scale, and then drive around to this big bucket of 3 to 5 inch black beach pebble stones and find the perfect stones and throw them in the back of my car, drive on the scale, and
Pay for the weight.
so I usually come up with 40 or 50 rocks. So I'm paying for my rocks now.
Yeah. That's cool. What do you think it is about painting rocks? Because we are in a stressful. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, it's very therapeutic for me, because I can just sit here by myself, and I don't know. It's never been something I've ever wanted to do or thought I would like to do, but come to find out, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I just sit here. My dog sits on the bed behind me, and we just kind of hang out down here in my craft room. And
Do you
just go
listen
at
to
it.
music, watch movies while you're doing it?
Both, yeah. This time of year, I usually have my AirPods in, listen to Christmas music.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But yeah.
Where do you think your inspiration is going to come from? If you found that you enjoy it and you're willing to drive to a place to buy them, I mean, it's got to be something more than just nice. I think as we get into something, we start to realize I'd be okay if I stopped, but maybe I wouldn't. Are you there? Is
Yeah.
that the kind of thing?
No. I just got to figure out what I'm going to do with it. Because, I have literally hundreds
Yeah.
painted. So when I had Tuesday, I had to cook dinner for a family who is at home with COVID.
Yeah.
So I took dinner over to them and I took them a rock.
That's awesome.
So anytime I go out and I do something or I'm meeting somebody, I usually take a rock with me.
Yeah.
My neighbor, um, she is a second grade teacher and she started this little project. Gosh, and it was back in the spring. In Harriman, I live here in Harriman. We have all kinds of hiking hills,
Yeah.
hiking trails up in the hills. And she hiked up to one of them to the top, planted a sign, and it's called the Kindness Project. And she made a video because at the time her classes were online, and she talked to the kids about finding the perfect rock, painting it, and then putting a clear coat on it. And then she told them what trail to take with their family and go up there. And there's an enormous pile of rocks up there now.
Oh, that gave me the
And
chills.
you just get up there to the top of the hill, you overlook the whole Utah Valley, and there's this pile of just amazing rocks that kids have painted, that people have painted and dropped off. So
It's spreading.
this time of year I won't go up there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's amazing.
That's awesome.
So
That's a really cool on that teacher to get her kids involved in something
yes,
that's kindness
she's
and
amazing.
the families to go up and paint a rock and clear coat
Yep.
it so that it lasts and take the trail and get up there, and anybody else who just happens upon that is going to just be amazed.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's really neat.
And it's a lot of rocks disappear,
Oh
but
yeah.
there always seems to be more than there were the last time that you went. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool to see.
That is really neat. That makes me think there's got to be something neighborhood wise or community wise around the places that have trails like that.
Yeah.
Not that you could, I don't know if it'd be worth starting a foundation or some sort of a like charity or something where money is, donated or invested or whatever, but spreading
Mhm.
that idea, it's like paying it forward kind of.
Yeah.
That's really neat.
Yeah. I think I think it's been great for this community. I mean,
Yeah.
even people go on rocks. There's trails throughout Harriman, throughout the homes. There's these paved trails, and you just find random rocks places
Yeah.
that people have painted and set out there, and it's amazing. Just when you're out on a hike or you're going up a trail and it's sagebrush and just
It's pretty, but it's
nothing
not,
but
yeah.
shrubbery, and then all of a sudden you find a rock. It's like, oh my gosh, look at that!
Yeah.
And then pretty soon you're looking for them.
Yeah.
You just, but it's been really kind of interesting to see how it's evolved. And I don't know that it would have happened without this COVID experience.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
People that are bored, that are with their family more,
Yeah.
looking for a way to,
Yep. Yes.
they've taken care of each other, but now what can they do for somebody else?
Yeah.
That's really neat.
Yeah. Yeah.
How far have your rocks? I know that other people are doing similar things. They'll see something online and they'll try to copy it and do it in their own town. But how far have your rocks gone? I know that you just said you shipped a couple.
I sent an order to New Hampshire. I know a friend of mine is battling cancer and has a cabin up at Causey Reservoir, up Ogden Canyon, up that way. And she gave me a rock from Causey, and I painted her cabin on it.
Oh yeah.
So I know that's up there.
Yeah.
And then there was some friends that went to Jackson Hole, and they brought me this tile of the artistic scenery of Jackson Hole, and they wanted me to put on a rock that they brought from Jackson Hole.
Yeah.
I did that, and that is down in St. George.
That's neat.
Yeah, I painted the Marine. My stepdad is a huge Marine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I painted him a rock with the Marine insignia on it, and that's sitting proudly out in front of his house.
Yeah.
And that's over in Nevada. So yeah, and of course, my brother's down in Palm Springs, and he's a rock painter too, and we're always sharing ideas back and forth. And I've got a couple of his rocks, and he's got a couple of mine.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
I'm curious. I've talked to some people as they develop a hobby or as they get into a hobby that already exists. Are there Facebook groups? Have you looked to be able to share more ideas with people, or maybe start one with you and your brother?
Oh, that's interesting. I never even thought about that. But yeah, Uh,
Just an idea.
well, I know there's more than just two of us out there painting rocks. I do get online and you see them on
Yeah,
Etsy and
yeah,
places, Pinterest and things like that.
yeah,
There's you would have never guessed it was that big of a deal, but
yeah.
there's a lot of people painting rocks.
That's neat.
That's how we're all staying sane.
Right. And hopefully bringing smiles to people along the way.
I hope so.
That's really cool. So what else? What other, as you've developed your Lewis artistic side, has anything else sort of seeped out of the history books you've realized or learned about yourself?
I'm a bit OCD, which
Yeah.
I always knew. So anytime something comes up, it's like I'm all in.
Yeah.
Pickleball, I'm all in. Rock painting, I'm all in.
Yeah.
That's just kind of, get me on a poker table, I'm
I'm
all
all
in.
That's awesome.
Kind of how it goes.
I know that you spent some time with a young women's group painting rocks. What was that experience like? Knowing
Yeah.
what it does for you, it brings you some
Yeah.
peace and some calm and some focus and things. What was it like sharing that with some teenage girls?
It was kind of like being back in the classroom,
Yeah.
and it was kind of fun. But the girls were amazing. I gave them each 2 rocks. I said, so you can have 2 projects going at the same time, and do something on one rock, let it dry, move over to the other rock, and you're just kind of going to bounce back and forth between the 2, so that
Yeah.
you're not just sitting there waiting for a rock to dry.
So you figured out a system.
Yeah. And we were outdoors. It was really cool to see some of the things that they had created, and that their goal was to each make 2 rocks, and then their goal was to give those away.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like a kindness project that they were doing themselves. So that was kind of fun to see.
Yeah.
So
That's really neat.
that was
And I
Yeah.
think that's what, I think you've experienced this with teaching, and that's what I've experienced with teaching. We have an idea of what we want, or what we think we want our students to learn. And sometimes that's a philosophical lesson, a right or wrong lesson, how should I treat other people lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they just take it and run.
Yeah.
And they just surprise you with the ideas that they have and how they can apply that to not just this little activity, but to other things with other people.
Yeah. It's nice when something comes along and you present it to somebody and you see them kind of not just learn the lesson, but teach it to somebody else.
Yeah, internalize it and share it.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah. That's really neat. Would you be open to doing that through, and I know how much you love technology, but would you be open, and I'm not selling anything here, I don't have any groups that I'm thinking of, but is that something that if there was a demand for that, and I don't know that you would charge for it or whatever, but if somebody said, hey, I've got a group that I would like to talk about sharing kindness and painting rocks.
Mm-hmm. I have another friend that wanted me to do it with her group of girls, and I've always thought, you know what? I wonder if I can make a business of this,
Yeah.
where I just, that's my, it's a birthday party. Let's paint rocks.
Yeah. Or a
and
Girl Scout
just
group,
take
or
supplies. Yeah. And I just thought, well, it's not like I don't have any teaching background. I mean, it would be easy to do.
yeah.
You just take your supplies there and let them pick out their own designs. You kind of give them a little bit of a guidance on how to do this, but I kind of wondered if that would be something that would be, I don't know if there'd be an interest in it. I mean,
Well,
I know
I think-
a couple of my friends have asked me.
Yeah, I think that there is definitely an interest in, and I don't know if it's cyclical, if there's this cycle of it's all about me, and then we sort of get tired of ourselves and we try to figure out what we can do for somebody else. And I don't know if COVID has maybe focused on that even more, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was, putting feelers out there of what somebody would get out of that, if it would be valuable.
Yeah.
Because I think there are a lot of Girl Scout groups and whatever they are, and it doesn't have to just be girls, right? It could be any combination of kids, but that's a lesson.
Senior center,
Yeah, that's a lesson.
you know.
And maybe there could even be messages of just the idea of doing good and promoting happiness and peace and kindness and the motivation to be happy, or that life isn't
Yeah.
all as terrible as we think it is sometimes.
Yeah.
We get into the
Never
cycle
does.
of the negativity of COVID and elections and people that we thought we
Oh my
liked and elections. And we start to question our relationship choices. And
God. Yes.
well, Kathy, I have thoroughly enjoyed catching up with you and talking about your experience with teaching and PE and helping kids love to play, and then happening upon trying to stay sane and managing your own sanity, but also helping other people in the process, and sharing a craft and art. I think art and craft sometimes get mixed with art is fancy and craft is the layman's version
Yeah.
of art. But it
You.
is art. It's beautiful, yeah. If you were to tell yourself back in your gym rat days, as you say, that you do have some art in you and you've just got to find it, and wherever that is you'll find it, what do you think you would have said to yourself back, your gym rat self back to you now?
Probably not a darn thing, because it it really happened because of time.
Yeah.
I retired, COVID. It's given me the time to really enjoy it and sit down and explore what my talents were.
Yeah.
So I don't think it would have been something I would have been interested back then.
Yeah.
I was too driven by competition. Not that I'm not now,
Right.
but I have time now.
Yeah.
I can fit more in my day.
Yeah. I think that's wise. I think sometimes we worry, am I going to be good at something? Is this really what I should be doing? But sometimes it is time. Sometimes there is a stage for whatever it is that we're interested in.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you had a classroom again, just for a day, not necessarily back into the teaching thing, but what would you tell those ninth grade girls about? Maybe they're worried about what they're supposed to be doing in the future. Maybe they're worried about high school and COVID and whether or not they're going to be able to graduate with their friends in a few years. What would you tell those kids based on what you've learned about yourself and competition and art and discovering new things?
Everything always works out. Life gets hard. I mean, it gets hard for everybody.
Yeah.
We all have our issues and we all have our battles. But everything, and maybe it's just me, and I've always been a pretty optimistic person, but things always seem to work out. And you always come out better than before and stronger than before. And so it's a matter of learning and growing and dealing with life, and then it's amazing what's out there for you.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so many possibilities.
Yeah.
So if if you're in junior high and you have a breakup and that's just rocked your world to where you can't function,
Yeah.
you're in trouble. I mean, because life gets much harder than that.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that's wise to say that it's persistence. Things always end up better than they were. It doesn't feel like it in the middle of it.
right.
Whatever it is that we're struggling with, whatever it is that we're going through, but it's just like exercising and trying to build muscle. It's just like practicing painting. It's going to be rough until you figure it out. And then when you figure it out, you're a little bit better.
Yep. Yep. I always told my students, you know what? The worst thing you can be is the same you were yesterday.
Ooh.
If you're not growing, if you're not a little bit better than you were the day before, a better sister, a better daughter, a better teammate, a better basketball player, whatever it is, if you're not better than you were the day before, you're doing it wrong.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause your goal should be to get better at something, to be kinder, to be nicer,
Yeah.
something.
That's good. So my next question is to those those teenagers. They may or may not listen, but what about the mom or the dad that is right now in the middle of who knows what's going on with the school districts, when my kids are going to be home or when they're going to be in school. I'm starting to find out that I have issues that I've got to deal with. What kind of confidence or support can you say to a parent who's trying to keep everything together and isn't sure that they can?
Oh man,
It's kind
I
of heavy.
feel for him. It is. I feel for him because I honestly went back to teaching after I had my kids because that was easier than staying home with my own.
Yeah.
You have so much more patience with other people's kids, so I get it. If I were staying at home with my kids right now, maybe they better start painting some rocks. I don't know, man. It's again, this is an awful time, but it's going to get better.
Yeah.
We just have to get through this period and do the best we can right now, because there is hope. Oh my gosh, we have so much hope, and it's going to get better, and it's not that far away.
Yeah.
So just hang on.
Now I'm curious, with your discovery of painting rocks and the meditation and the sanity that's probably brought to you, has brought to you, do you think your perspective on this last 9 months or so is better?
I don't know. I don't know if it's better, but it's allowed me to deal with it better. Like I said, I've always been an optimistic person. I think at the beginning of this whole thing, I think we were all a little nervous because it was, the fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
We weren't sure what was going on here.
Yeah.
And so everybody was a little uneasy at first, and maybe we're just kind of used to it now. I don't know.
I guess I have this,
It's just,
as I've been talking to people about the things that they love and the happiness and the peace that it can bring when things are hard, I guess I was just wondering if it's noticeable that, and you're optimistic already, so maybe that's less obvious to you because you already are. But I have this idea that when we are, no matter what's going on in life, whether there is COVID or not, whether we've just lost our job or whatever, I have this idea that when we have something that we can wake up for and look forward to, like painting rocks, that the weight of the problem, whatever it is, COVID, loss of a job, whatever, is a little bit lighter. Everything is a little bit better because we have something to look forward to for ourselves to make us feel better.
Yeah, I can see that. I tell you what, since I started painting rocks, my house isn't as clean. I do enjoy it, but it does distract me.
Yeah.
In more ways than one.
Yeah.
It takes your mind off the issues, the problems, the COVID, the inability to get out and see friends.
Yeah.
But then I don't clean my house.
Well, Kathy, I have loved catching up with you and talking with you about some of the things that you're doing and enjoying and the ways that other people are enjoying what you're doing. I think that's awesome.
Dave, I've enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
I hope that you find some homes for those rocks and maybe start something up to where other people can experience that meditation, happiness, and sharing a positive message with somebody else too. So
I may have to.
Whatever develops, I think it'll be good. For those of you that are listening, I hope that something was said that connected with you. I hope that whether you feel like you're an artist or not, that you can find something that you can invest a little bit in yourself and enjoy for yourself. If this has done something for you and you know somebody else that's struggling or is challenged with something, share this. Follow us on Instagram. I post links to all of these things and sometimes behind the scenes images, pictures, what's going on. We'll have some images of rocks on Instagram here with Kathy and her hobby. So check us out there, follow us there, and if you have questions or about episodes, or maybe you have an idea of somebody that would be a good person to talk to and see what good they're doing, it would be great to get some suggestions from you. So thanks for listening and have an awesome day.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today on Own Your Good. I'd like to give a special thanks to Arches Audio. They are the ones that provided this awesome music. If you need anything for a project, I would go and check them out. They have a great selection of music and other services to help you with your creative projects. I hope that you found this valuable. If you enjoyed this episode and it did something for you, or you think somebody might benefit from it, please share this. It would mean a lot to me to help spread this positivity and this idea that people can change, improve, and ultimately own their good.